Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free and live Uncommon Sense parenting class. How is everyone today? Last week was busy. Very, very busy. My youngest started preschool, which was both a really proud mama moment and a little bit like a punch in the gut. He's getting so big. Far too fast, but he seems to be settling in pretty well. And his teacher seems to be thrilled with him. So, always nice to hear nice things about our kids. I just got back from my older son's meet the teacher night. We found his lost shirt because somehow first day of school, he managed to come home wearing something different than what I sent him in. Also, last week, we welcomed 2 new Parentability members, and they're getting all of their groundwork in place. I am super excited. New challenges. There's 2 kinds of fun for me working with clients. One is working with existing clients who've been with me anywhere from a few months to a few years and getting to see how they progress, seeing those wins, no matter how small they are. Every time just gives me a thrill. And every time a client shares one of those wins with me, it's just fantastic. Even though, I gave them the information, they're the ones who did the hard work. And it's just so awesome to see their hard work come to fruition. The other kind of fun is meeting new clients and getting to crawl inside their brains and inside of their children's brains, helping them what I call find the corner pieces. You know how when you do a puzzle, if you're not a masochist, you'll find the corners first and then the edges. That's what it feels like doing with new clients, helping them find their corners and their edges. And then after a few months, we start to fill in the picture. So I have been able to start doing that with 2 new families this week, which has been super, super fun. Hey, Stephanie. Hey. Okay, hold on. I'm having some tech issues here. Here we go. Hey, Stephanie. And hey, Shannon. Stephanie says she's looking forward to watching tonight. Yay, I'm so glad you made it. And yay, Shannon's here too. Okay. Thank you. All right. So before we get started, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Allana Robinson, and I'm a parenting effectiveness coach. I help parents just like you understand why your toddler, preschooler, or kindergartner is misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or power struggles. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I also host my free peer support Facebook group, The Parenting Posse. If you're not a member, you should totally join. And I am the creator of the Parentability program. So say hi if you're here, just like Stephanie and Shannon have. If you're watching a replay, drop me a replay in the comments. If neither of those sound appealing, just give this Facebook video a like so that Facebook knows that I am at least somewhat entertaining. Feel free to ask questions, comment, put in your 2 cents as we go along. This is supposed to be a class, not a lecture. As much as is possible, I really like to talk with y'all instead of at you, and that can only happen if you're talking to me too. Okay, so I'd like to talk about bodily autonomy today, but from an angle you might not be expecting. We've talked about teaching children consent through play. We've talked about body safety on several occasions, and in relation to several different topics. There's been a ton of discussions about it in the Parenting Posse too. And just last week, we talked about how boundaries make children feel safe and that it's okay to put limits around space. I'd say, on the whole, millennial mothers spend a lot of time, effort, and energy teaching their children that they are the boss of their body. At least the ones in my sphere of influence seem to. And yet, somehow, we seem to have missed the memo that it also applies to us. And that is what I want to talk about tonight. Our bodily autonomy. So the catalyst for this was that there was a discussion in the Parenting Posse about moms going to the bathroom. And a lot of women seem to think that it was strange or somehow damaging that some moms might not want their children in the bathroom with them. And I mean, personally, this isn't an issue for me. Like, as an example, last year, after my son's kindergarten Christmas concert, his teacher messaged me to inform me that my sweet son had just explained to her in great detail how to use a menstrual cup. And I was like, yep, sounds about right. That's because I haven't used the bathroom without an audience since 2013. And if he's just going to sit there and stare at me, he might as well learn about how the female body works, right? So obviously, personally, I have no issue with my children being in the bathroom with me. But that doesn't mean that if someone else does, that there's something wrong with it. Because that is how bodily autonomy works. Each individual person gets to decide how much of their body that they want to share with others and who those other people are. And that means moms too. Hey Erin, hey Krista. Yeah, Krista made it tonight. So, here's the thing. Just because most of you carried your children inside of your body does not give your child a right to it, any more than anyone else has a right to it. And this goes for all things. They do not have a right to your breasts. If you choose not to breastfeed, that's your choice. It's your body, and you get to decide what you are and are not okay with happening to it. If breastfeeding is not one of those things, that's your call, nobody else's. Your children are not entitled to climb on you. As a boy mom, this is something that I am constantly having to remind myself. And I cannot tell you how many clients I've had to reinforce this with too. It is okay to tell your children to get the hell off of you. You might not want to phrase it exactly that way, but it is perfectly acceptable to say, I don't want you climbing on me right now. Get off. Or I don't want you touching me right now. And then to take steps to stop the unwanted contact. It is perfectly okay to jettison your children from the room when you undress, if you so choose. That includes when you are showering and using the toilet. You don't have to let people look at you in a state of undress if you don't want them to, and that includes your children. And this is the crux of the matter, you can change what you will and will not allow at any given time. Just because you want privacy in the washroom today doesn't mean you always need to demand privacy in the washroom. It is totally acceptable to say, like, you know what? Today I just don't feel like being stared at while I drop a deuce, okay? I mean, yes. The goddess of consistency will be displeased, and if you're constantly changing your boundaries, it will likely lead to some protesting. But newsflash, people don't have to like it. Isn't that exactly what we tell our kids? It doesn't matter if someone doesn't like it that you won't let them touch you or look at you. Even if you originally consented to it. It's your body. And if that upsets them, then that's their deal. Right? That doesn't change because the person who is upset happens to be your kid. Our children are not entitled to feeling happy and cherished 100% of the time. And the best way to teach them that these boundaries are real and tangible and how to enforce them is to model it ourselves, right? Practice makes perfect. The more practice they have with being on the receiving end of bodily boundaries, the better that they'll be at enforcing them themselves. The more you do it, the better you get at it. See how that works? And no, your children aren't going to be irreparably damaged by you saying that you don't want to be stared at in the shower today. Yes, it might make them feel unwanted in that moment, and that's okay. As I said, our children aren't entitled to living in a bubble of sunshine and rainbows. It's okay if they feel disappointed and that they can't do what they want. Right? Again, practice makes perfect. The more you experience that feeling of disappointment and rebound from it successfully, the less that they'll feel like that is a disaster, right? The less disappointed they'll feel, and they'll rebound faster. That is the function of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. They're like a muscle. You want to flex them frequently, and the more you flex them, the less big of a deal it is when you need to use them. And you can come out of the bathroom or finish your cup of coffee or whatever it is that you're doing, and without, anybody touching you during that time or looking at you, and then go engage with them and love on them and spend time with them again. Just because you're enforcing a boundary in that moment doesn't mean that your children can never touch you or look at you ever again. Okay? So too long didn't read or didn't listen. Bodily autonomy principles apply to us too. I really didn't think that I needed to say that, but the last week there's just been so many comments on it. And it is 100% okay and expected that you enforce them for yourself as much as you teach your children to enforce them. So thoughts? Drop me a comment. I would love to hear them. Even if you're watching the replay, I do come back and read them and respond. I'm sure people either have very strong feelings in either direction on this. But it was kind of a surprise to me that moms didn't realize we have that right too. Just because there are kids doesn't give them right to our body any more than it gives anybody else a right to our bodies. So yeah, comment, even if you're watching the replay. Usually Facebook notifies me. Facebook notifications have been a little spotty lately, but usually it does. And if you're looking for information on boundaries, or more information on boundaries, there's lots of information on my blog and in my scripts for Managing Crazy-Making Behaviour, which are totally free, and they are linked in the description. Oh! Look, Krista says, we're immersed in mom martyr culture. Yes, exactly! And you know what? I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective, but I completely agree. There's this expectation that we have to give ourselves up, all of ourselves up, when we have children, and that includes the right to our own physical body, and it's just not true. If we enforce these boundaries with our kids, then those boundaries become really natural, and they don't become a weird thing. And again, it gives them practice being on the receiving end of, having consent given and having consent revoked. And the more that we teach them and practice with them on that, the less difficult it's going to be as they get older and they start having to do those things with partners. And on that same note, of giving up all of ourselves, I quickly want to remind you, before I sign off, that Thursday evening I'm hosting an exclusive live workshop with the fabulous Lady Gunner called Project Momway. So Gunner's on a mission to help us all find our adult woman style again after having babies. So she's going to be sharing with us some pre-work that we need to do before we go shopping so that we're not just wandering around the mall aimlessly. How to shop for our bodies so that we aren't just randomly pulling stuff off the racks and crossing our fingers as we head to the dressing room, which I do way too frequently. And she's going to share with us what she calls style formulas, which are math for clothes. Ways to put things together that will make you look like a bloody adult when you leave the house. Because, y'all, listen, there's a time and a place for leggings and tunics, but when we go out into the world, that's the time to dress up a bit and look like a grown-ass woman. So tonight I've given you some information over control of your bodies, and Thursday's Gunner's going to teach you how to dress them. So you can register for that. Here, I'll put the link up right here. There we go. You can register for that at this link, which is prnt.link/projectmomway. right? We've given up so much for our kids. It is totally acceptable to enforce some boundaries around our bodies and to dress our bodies in a way that makes us feel good and proud and comfortable as grown-ass women. Shannon says, does the look of hurt become less because my 3-year-old looks like I smacked him when I ask him to leave? Yeah, usually, as I said, once they've kind of had the practice, it's not so much of a slight anymore. It's just like, go. And they're like, okay, bye. I find, especially when kids start using the bathroom too, once they start getting potty trained, and we start extending the concept of privacy to them, they start to get it a little bit more too. Like, right at this point, I can say to my boys, like, guys, get out. I need some privacy. And they're just like, all right. And they go. And I mean, my oldest used to look at me like I was like the Witch of the West when I would lock him out of the bathroom too. But clearly he's gotten over it. And again, they don't have to like it. It's okay if they're upset. Right? Nobody has to like the boundaries that you're setting on your body as long as they respect them. Time for the Project Mom Way workshop. It's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern. So like 1 hour earlier than we typically run the MudRoom. And it should take about an hour. Gunner's going to share some stuff with us, and then we're going to have a Q&A at the end so that Gunner can answer all your questions. So I'm really excited. You guys are going to love her. She's just amazing. She's one of those people too who I can just like banter with for hours. She's amazing. I love her. Okay. So thank you so much, y'all. See you next week for another Uncommon Sense parenting class. Bye.